Hey guys, what's going on? It's Frozenballz here, and today we are going to be talking about the Chroma build itself. Now, Chroma wasn't a frame that I played a lot. When he launched, it was around the same time when I had a bit of a burnout with the game and I was not really playing it much. And then I didn't really explore into like what his abilities were, how I could min-max him out. Like I put the forma on it, just to put the maxed out mods, but I didn't really actually, see what potential he had. I knew he was a really good solo frame and, I saw him being used by a lot of people. But again, it was just one of those things that because I didn't explore it, it didn't really appeal to me. Recently, one of my friends, Arthi, showed me, like a couple of Chroma builds, which, to be honest, after he showed me, I just kind of fell in love with. It's absolutely insane how powerful Chroma actually is and how amazingly strong he is and how you can actually min-max him up to doing so much damage. Like, he can be extremely tanky, but at the same time, just pump out that damage. It is insane. Of course, with Chroma, he's got 4 of his elementals, so you can kind of pick and choose which one you want to go with. When I play with my Chroma, I primarily just use Ice Chroma, although I do sometimes use Electric Chroma and Fire Chroma as well, depending on the situation that I'm playing with. The Fire Chroma is actually particularly nice because it becomes so tanky, especially when you've got something like an Arcane Grace proccing all the time, and you just keep regenerating your HP, which you've got such a high pool to begin with. Electric, again, any enemies that strike you, it basically puts a portion of that damage back straight at them. So imagine like you're fighting like a level 140 Grineer Butcher and he melees you. Now imagine the amount of damage that Butcher does and the percentage of that damage being reflected straight back to him. That Butcher will die just because he struck you with his melee weapon. That's how powerful it is because it actually scales up, which is fantastic. Now, Ice Chroma is kind of like the best of all worlds kind of thing. Ice Chroma, when you activate Vex Armor and when you activate Elemental Ward, it gives you increased damage, increased armor as well. And Ice is all about giving you extra armor to begin with. And on top of that, when you activate one of the abilities, Elemental Ward, it gives you a Mesa-style Shatter Shield on your Warframe itself, which reflects bullets, both projectiles as well as, the hit scan bullets itself, which is ideal. And enemies that are hit by the reflected bullets have a cold proc applied to them, so it slows them down as well. So it's free CC, free damage mitigation, and, a massive armor boost as well, which you get at the same time. Toxic Chroma, I'll be honest, I don't really use Toxic Chroma much. I don't really like the way the whole Toxic Chroma thing works, like the whole reload speed, but there are situations where a Toxic Chroma can be pretty useful as well. The utility that the others provide is much higher than what I care for when it comes to using Toxin itself, so I don't bother using it. I think in that conversation which I had with Arthi, it was safe to say that Chroma is definitely one of the strongest solo frames itself, whether you choose to play it with melee, whether you choose to play it as a gun-playing platform itself. It works in both scenarios very well. Having said that, here is the build. Let's see what it looks like. Okay, so when it comes down to Chroma, I've got 2 specific builds, or rather, it's one specific build with a small variation based on which armor set you're going with or which elemental color you're going with. When I play with Ice Chroma, I replace Constitution with Narrow-Minded because having maximum duration is very beneficial. You don't really need range because all the bullets that are reflected will hit enemies and it'll slow them down anyway, so you still have that CC despite the range. It's all about having a high duration for, Elemental Ward and Vex Armor itself. The higher duration means it'll be up for a longer time, especially considering how expensive this build currently is. You are looking at using a max blind rage with prime flow, but you have no sort of efficiency at all, so you're going to be burning through that power if you're not careful. But here's the thing, this build is built all around survivability and energy recycling, at the same time having a massive duration as well. So let me just explain how this works. Vitality and Steel Fiber obviously add to his effective HP pool, because he's got high HP to begin with, and of course, high armor count to begin with. Playing with Ice basically increases his armor even further, so it basically just stacks on top of each other. Quick Thinking plus Rage, despite the changes, despite the staggering, despite everything, still is a very good way of increasing your effective HP overall. So it is always a good combination to use with frames like a Chroma or even a Valkyr. Basically frames which have a high energy pool, which can effectively use Quick Thinking plus Rage combo as a part of increasing their effective HP overall. That combination works perfectly for that. Prime Flow obviously increases the power pool, which in turn increases the effective HP. So when you take damage, Rage will regenerate energy. Quick thinking basically prevents you dying at, 2 HP because it'll just, start taking energy to mitigate it. And again, since armor is a thing, and since you've got such high armor with Vex armor activated at the time, the amount of damage you take gets reduced as well, so you can be survivable for a much longer period of time as well at the same time. Prime Continuity and Narrow-Minded, obviously just duration mods, to have a higher duration. And Handspring, as far as I'm concerned, is one of the most important mods for Chroma. The reason I say this is because Chroma is the kind of frame that will spend a lot of time in melee range with enemies. As you already know, DES put in so many enemies that love knocking us on our ass over and over and over without having a cooldown. So having Handspring is one of the most important mods when it comes to using a melee-based frame. And Chroma, as far as I'm concerned, is a melee-based frame. Aura, you can kind of change it out depending on what kind of faction you're fighting. Corrosive Projection works. Alternatively, you can use Energy Siphon if you so choose. You can use Enemy Radar, Loot Detector, or whatever else you prefer. Usually, when it comes to Warframes, and because of how the utility of these auras are, I tend to stick with a dash polarity for all of my frames, apart from 1 or 2 frames here and there. 1, because I was lazy and I couldn't be out switching it. 2, I actually find using something like a Steel Charge on a Ash Prime with a Bladestorm build, or a Valkyr with the Eternal War build much more ideal, as opposed to, putting on Corrosive Projection or something or the other like that. So it's just one of those personal choice things. But if you're going to be going into a long run mission or something like that, then Corrosive Projection if you're fighting armored enemies, or Energy Siphon if you're fighting against Corpus, or maybe even, Shield Aura, which we have currently, which reduces the shield by, a set percentage or something or the other. That's your personal choice. You can change it accordingly, however you want to change it out itself. Now, the variation for this build is where you replace Narrow-Minded with Constitution. The reasoning for that is simple. With Narrow-Minded and Prime Continuity, you have a 254% duration, yes, but your range gets knocked down to 34%. Now, you may think that's a lot, but if you look at the actual abilities page itself, the abilities range for stuff like Elemental Ward is down to about 4 meters. For Ice, this is fine, you don't have to worry about it, but for other elements like Fire and Electric, which kind of, like for example, Electric has those arcs which need to fire off on enemies. You need to have a bit more range so you can actually effectively fire off those arcs. For Fire, again, so you can set everything on fire, you want to have a little bit more range as well. Because of that particular thing, I would highly recommend you replace Narrow-Minded with Constitution, because when you do that, as soon as you do that rather, your duration gets it takes a big hit, but it goes back to about 183%, but at least you've got a power range of 100%. With a power range of 100%, what that basically means is you will now have a power range of 12 meters for Elemental Ward, which is still quite a bit. You can make use of your Electric Chroma really well. You can make use of your Fire Chroma as well, and if you decide you want to play Toxin, you can make use of a Toxin Chroma as well at the same time. It's just one of those things. You have the options available for you, so you can do it. This build is a very powerful build. It may be a solo build, but you can use it in a squad as well. It is very, very powerful, and it has a lot of survivability, and you can go about reviving people here and there. But it's not a frame, it's not a build which, benefits the entire team, so to speak. I guess it kind of does, if you're killing everything and, saving their ass and reviving them as they go down because they're too pleb to survive. But jokes apart, it is more or less a bit of a solo frame to begin with. Now, the other builds which you can make for Chroma, like, an effigy-based one, I personally don't like using effigy at all. When Chroma first came out and people were using effigy on something like Ceres and Simoni or whatever node they were doing for credit farming, I didn't like using effigy at all. It didn't really seem something which was worth using to me. I'm probably not going to make a build for effigy unless there is a necessity for it, which I don't really see right now. Spectral Scream. This ability had so much potential to be so good, to be an actual fire-breathing dragon, but it suffers so much. It has no range. It has very low damage as well at the same time, and it slows you down while you're walking. This ability needs to change. It really needs to be relooked at. Its range needs to be either doubled or even tripled. With 100% range, which is, base standard, The power range is only 10 meters. It's nothing. You're not going to be able to do anything with that. So as far as I'm concerned, this ability either needs to be relooked at or, increase its range, etc. Now, whether DE is going to be doing that or not, we don't know, because I'm pretty sure they did say on one of the dev streams or one of the podcasts that they are currently looking at reviewing Chroma and his abilities. So maybe down the line, Chroma might actually change the way he functions, the way his powers function and all that kind of stuff. We'll just have to wait and see. We don't really know how that's going to work out. So it's just one of those things. And that's it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. As always, if you like what you saw, make sure you hit a like, a comment, and a subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.